Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Friendly Conversations. Today I introduce an amazing guy. His name is Alberto Caccialanza and he studies the Marian messages. Hi, Alberto. Welcome. Hi, dear friends. Thank you very much. So, as usual, I'm going to ask the usual question. Introduce yourself and tell us about your conversion, or better said, your humanistic turning point, as I used to say. Tell us, how did this come? Yeah, I have already shared other testimonies, but I always tell different events. I don't like telling the same stuff over and over again. Anyway, in order to spread her message, Virgin Mary chooses simple people who are not very esteemed in this world. For example, the seer of the Velletri apparitions in Rome's province, who passed away a couple years ago, she was illiterate. She could neither read nor write, and Our Lady herself said, "Tell everyone you are illiterate. Don't be ashamed, so that people will realize that this message is not coming from you, but I'm the one who told you." Genuine and authentic. Whose source is genuine and authentic? Precisely. And she has chosen other literate visionaries, such as, for example, Raffaele Ferrara. She chooses people who cannot neither read nor write, also in order to communicate her most important message directed to the world. People who are not supposedly fit for this job. I spread Marian messages. I'm not a visionary. I have never seen Our Lady. And before my conversion, I couldn't have been farther from these topics. Let me explain. As a child, I was extremely lively. I was a typical child who used to disturb at school, naughty, mischievous, very, very mischievous, very lively. I remember that at the oratory they taught catechism on the first floor. Together with my friends, I used to go to the ground floor. We were hiding under the stairs in a dark little corner, and at the exact time the catechesis began, we started screaming to disturb the priest. We had our laugh. The priest came down to find out who he was, and after a few times he caught us. And we went on disturbing. We were setting off firecrackers and breaking some objects. Well, I was frowned upon in the church circle. They say that you were not quite suitable for this task. Exactly. As a boy, this energy turned into violence, into hate. I kept on fighting and getting into fights. I used to hang around with violent guys, just like me. We didn't have a good name in town. We were proud, and we wanted to command respect. I'll tell you an event which will let you understand a little the picture of the situation. One night, I was with an Albanian friend of mine. There were only two of us. We went to a disco, and there was a parking lot near the venue, and another one farther away in a garden. We wanted to park close. The valet parkers wanted us to park far away, so we started to quarrel and argue, and this Albanian friend of mine grabbed the torch, the flashlight, from the valet parker's hand, and he threw it at his head, and we got into a fit fight. However, point is that the valet parkers were 3 or 4. Later, the bouncers came out. I remember that during this fight, I had a valet parker behind who was hitting my back with a flashlight. Well, it was getting really very bad. Fortunately, we managed to slip out and flee. There was a female friend of mine there at the parking lot watching the whole thing, and she was in her car. My friend got away before me and got into her car. I was falling behind him and I was in danger of being caught by the parking attendants. My friend had the car windows down to avoid standing there, opening the door, getting in the car, and then closing the door. So, to save time and to avoid being caught by the bouncers, I dove in. I threw myself inside the car, just like in the swimming pool. I dove in. Then a valet parker came and threw a flashlight on the back window of the car, and we ran away at more than 100 kilometers per hour. So I've been involved in violent and fierce brawls, in scenes worthy of an action movie. And I think this incident is enough to make you understand that I had nothing, trust me, nothing to do with Our Lady. And I didn't even know what Marian messages were. I didn't know they existed. One night I was watching TV on Italia Uno, Mystery, a television program, which I used to see also in the past because it dealt with supernatural stuff, so it was kind of strange and fascinating. The team of this program has framed the visionary at the time of the apparition. Actually, that broadcast was talking about the Marian apparitions in San Bonico, which are 30-40 minutes by road from home. With their cameras, the team has framed the visionary at the time of the apparition. Then the cameras have framed the setting, which started to beat like a heart. And the pixels, which are the teeniest punctuation that makes up the screen, they changed shape and color. I had already met the camera's owner, who is a well-known professional, and his name is Daniele Goulart, and you've probably already heard of him. Well, he said that he never saw something like this before and cannot find an explanation for that. I was an atheist and I got impressed by the very technical aspect of it. I told myself, cameras don't lie like a human being. One night, I went to San Bonico. I got there by car. I parked, got out of my car, I walked, and then I stopped. At the same time I stopped, at the same very moment, I felt a ball of warmth which drew a circle between my stomach and my belly. Yes, okay, alright, that's a chakra. Anyway, yeah, look, I don't know why, but trust me, I felt it. I even remember the direction of rotation. Then I went back, I meditated with intensity. Excuse me about the meditation, You had already meditated sometimes, or was it something you felt the need to do at that very moment? No, absolutely not. I'm telling you, I didn't know anything. Actually, since you've asked me, I'm telling you, I went there, they were praying the rosary, and didn't know the Hail Mary. That's great, that's a good sign. Now I've learned it, that's great, I like that. Go on, that's very nice. So, I've begun to think about it. After about 3 or 4 days, I got a remand. That's to say, I had to serve 3 months under house arrest because of a few old issues. After I was done with this house arrest, my life changed, or better to say, was overturned. Of course, I didn't go to the disco with my friends anymore, not at all. I was done. I've begun to visit this place consistently. I mean, I went there every Thursday. She used to appear every Thursday. Now she appears only on the first Thursday of the month. And I felt other signs. I'll give you a few examples. One night, still there at San Bonico, the visionary was seeing Virgin Mary, and I'm starting to hear a violin. The place of apparitions is outdoors. There is no facility, not at all. It was winter, and it was very cold. I began to sweat because I perceived the violin was not a ringtone. Because if in that very moment, the moment of the apparition, a phone rings, they turn it off right away immediately, since it's a moment of high focus, of strong devotion and silence. So, I've heard this violin. Another night in San Bonico, there was a 12-year-old girl who lives half a kilometer from my house. She was there 2 or 3 meters from me. She took a picture of the sky with her cell phone. In her picture, we have seen a sphere of light, which was not there live. We've zoomed in on that spot of that picture and we have seen that in the light there was a face of a woman with a shoulder-length veil. You could really see her chin, her mouth, her nose, her eyes. The veil was pulled back off her forehead, so that you could glimpse her hair parted in the middle. Now, I know this child, and I know she has not retouched the picture with some program. Here is another exceptional event. An Albanian friend of mine had come up there to San Bonico with her disabled son, but really disabled. He couldn't walk, he couldn't eat by himself, and he constantly used to keep his head on one side or on the other one. This child passed away about a year ago. Now he is certainly better off. However, he had some huge problems. At the moment of the apparition, this child straightened his head and started to look smiling and intensely at the area, the zone of the sky, where Our Lady appears, where the very seer is looking at. So, first of all, what I want to inform you all about is that Virgin Mary is appearing. It's not anymore a matter of belief or disbelief. She is appearing. From that moment on, I have not been fighting with anyone ever. I didn't even feel the need to. I started studying her messages and spreading them, of course. Excuse me, one more thing. I'll ask you this question. Have you seen her or not? No, as I told you before, I'm not a visionary. I've never seen her. But you have had this whole series of feelings, circumstances, situations which will tell you exactly. So which is the way, the method in which you have started spreading these messages? What did you do? How did you do it? Alright, well, first of all, of course, I started with the messages of San Bonico. I've studied them. Then I've looked also into the messages of other apparitions in Brazil, Argentina, and other parts of the world. I was very impressed by their correlation, but also by their content, which is exceedingly strong. So I told myself, we got to do something, and we got to do it also fast. In fact, I didn't wait long and I printed right away a few sheets, which listed some Marian prophecies to be spread. Then I began by going to Paolo Brosio and telling him, in San Bonico, Our Lady is appearing, so get there and bring some people. Then talk about this apparition on TV, since they invite you to the Italian TV channels, Rete 4, Italia 1. Yes, of course, he had the right connections. Exactly, precisely. He said, no, sorry, I'm into something else. I'm having a hospital built in Medjugorje. I don't have time for that. All right, every weekend, and I mean every weekend without exception, I used to be in a different town and to enter 3, 4, or 5 churches of this town. I'd just stand outside the church and hand over these sheets to the people coming out of Mass or entering church to attend Mass. Then I'd go and hand over them to the priest too. I wasn't very successful. Let me give you a few examples here too. I went into a church. The Mass was ended since about 10 minutes, so I didn't know who celebrated it. I walked into the sacristy and there was someone smoking a cigarette. Then I said, "Excuse me, do you know where the priest?" And he turned me down flat, saying, "I don't know that." Someone else walked into the sacristy and I asked him, "Excuse me, you know where the priest?" And he answered, "Well, that's the guy smoking his cigarette." So I was about to hand him over the sheets, telling him these are some Marian prophecies, and he grabbed my arm right away and got me out of there, and he told me, "Get out, get away, because about Virgin Mary, we got this." Holy shit! Another time I walked into a church, this time 10 minutes before the Mass. I stepped into the sacristy. There was a priest, and I gave him the sheet. I explained something, he reads some messages, and then he starts yelling, "This is not Our Lady, this is your lady." But really, he started screaming on top of his lungs, and he went on for some minutes. I watched him in silence, then I went out of the sacristy. The sacristy is the room which flanks the altar where we celebrate. So I stepped out of the sacristy, and since the Mass should begin, it was full of people. There were something like 200 people in silence, staring at me with wide eyes, like I was a madman. You know, I met the priest yelling, so they took me for a bad guy. So I've endured unpleasant and sleazy situations, some failures, but I've never given up, and I have always been moving on. And every weekend I moved on, going to different towns. Actually, I've begun to go to the conferences where they deal with the spiritual topics. Even there, I wasn't treated so well. Then, at the beginning of the year 2017, besides going to churches and conferences, I have begun to go to the policemen, to the cops, to police headquarters, to the firefighters, the financiers, to the military. I handed them over these sheets saying, "Here there is a list of some Marian messages. Keep them, and when what is written here will happen, contact me because those are very serious topics." I gave them my telephone number and my mail address too. These things are happening. For example, in one of these sheets, I talked about worldwide pandemics. It's happening, and they have not contacted me. So I have witnessed a nasty indifference in that field too. Lack of interest and a nasty indifference, right? Yes, unfortunately, a nasty indifference. Then I thought, what about the Muslims, the Buddhists, the Hindu? They must know too, of course. And I never liked those close-minded talks, those mental cages, such as Virgin Mary appeals to the Christians, so we must tell only the Christians. No, why is that? So I started going to the mosque, to the warehouses where Buddhists and Hindu gather together. And in some cases, they treated me better than the consecrated people. The Hindu let me in their buildings. Of course, I had to respect a couple of rules. I took my shoes and my socks off. I walked in barefoot. They put a bandage on my head. I went there with my computer. I showed them a few very short clips about the Marian apparitions, and I explained them these messages, and they listened to me. Children were the most curious. Then they gave me some fried sweets and chips, some pasta and rice dishes. They were feeding you. Yes, haha. They treated me well enough, but in the end, I must admit that I didn't get great results with these sheets. I have not awakened many souls. In the early 2019, I have begun some more detentions. Still because of some past issues, but very mildly, in the mildest form. I mean, I could not get out of the Lombardy region. I had to stay home from evening until morning because also policemen used to come for random checks. You were under house arrest, Right, a mild way. So, since I couldn't travel freely around Italy, the work of spreading these sheets dropped, and I have started to spread these messages through some footage on YouTube. Here we can recognize some sort of relentlessness from this point of view. How come so relentless? That's to say, I will not give up. It's like saying, I will not give up. You said it right. I was relentless. First of all, I'm a hypersensitive person, which has nothing to do with good or bad. If someone does me good, I want to return the favor somehow. I have seen the messages of these visionaries describing Our Lady while she's crying. Because in some apparitions, her messages have been concealed, like for example in Lourdes, La Salette, Fatima, and they are not taking the present messages into account at all. There is a well-structured, well-organized occultic force which is blocking the dissemination of the word of Mary. She's suffering a lot because of it. And this aspect of the mother impressed me a lot. And it's always been bothering me, so we must break this wall, also because we are out of time. The Holy Mother talks about pandemics, catastrophes, persecutions, wars, but it's not the usual historic cycles which repeats itself, like many others. And I'm going to read you a few messages to let you understand better. Of course, Oliveto Citra, Apparitions, Caserta, 2006. My children, the world will suffer even greater punishments because his coming is very, very near. That is why God is dividing good from evil. The upcoming punishments are the consequences of our sins against our planet, mankind, and our neighbor, which have an impact on us. So it's not the typical punishment, vengeance as we understand it. Spiritual in that sense, yeah. They are more like heartfelt feelings. We really, really perceive that. Sure, but they're also like natural events which are going to fall on us. As you can see, mankind is making some very important life choices, especially during this period. And according to these choices, the Father is already making the selection between good and evil. That's right, we realize that in our everyday life. Exactly. I read you other messages. Catalina Rivas, Bolivia, 1996. So, from other parts of the world, my children, just a very little more and dying back. Here instead we are moving to Jacaré, apparitions from Brazil, a message of 2015. My son is coming back soon. And how many more are still sunk over their head in the mud of sin? Oh, for them the justice of my son will be terrible. It's because of it that I send you my angels, my messengers, my visionaries, to warn you, and in order to prepare your hearts for the imminent return of my son Jesus. Imminent. Because, my children, in that day there will be no excuse for you. There will be no ear to hear your wailing and your mourning, because the time to hear your mourning and your pleas is now. On that day, it will be too late. I've come to a lot of places of the world, but the places of my apparitions are deserted. So now you start to understand why I was so relentless. In other messages, which I have not brought here but which I've read in other meetings, Our Lady says, not biblical times, but a mere few of your years are left. So, of course, I didn't like standing out of the churches, and on top of that, I was always alone in doing that. I didn't like going in the squares of towns or standing outside high schools, because I did that too. But my conscience kept on hammering, so every weekend I was in a different town, doing what I've already told you. Then Virgin Mary repeats this message in other countries. I read you these messages, Luz de Maria, apparitions from Argentina, a message of 2012. Like a mother, I've been coming to you continually, and I always will. You just do not realize that the clock is ticking and that the supreme moment comes when all is ready to receive the second coming of my son. Here we come back to Italy, Carbonia, apparition, Sardinia, 2014. No one knows the day nor the hour of when this will happen. But verily, verily, I say unto you, I'm telling about it now. Don't be fools. It looks like a wake-up call. Exactly. Wake up. Pull yourselves together. Look what exactly. But excuse me, forgive me, I'm thinking of something about the Antichrist, because here comes the disambiguation. We know that in some cases the Antichrist comes first, then he goes away, and then he comes because he says, I'm coming soon. I mean, there is a risk of confusing them, forgive me for saying that. Yes, here's a very simple hint. It's the easiest one, remember that. The Antichrist will be acclaimed by the powerful, who are going to introduce him to mankind. When Jesus Christ will come back, he will make the powerful tremble. It's written in the sixth seal that they will hide inside their mountain shelters. So this will be a grand clue. Remember that the powerful will introduce him to humanity. Easy. Thank you for this clarification. You're welcome. Giampilieri Apparitions, Sicily, 2006. Man is such a fool that he cannot see at all what's going on around him. There will be still little time left before my return. All is written, all in writing, but still it's not enough. There are still some Christians. I hear them and they say, but we don't know the day and the time. Okay, it's true. But there are many more passages of the Gospel saying that before his return, pandemics, catastrophes, wars and persecutions will come. And an Antichrist is mentioned as well, as you said earlier. A man who, by means of a world kingdom, a world government, will rule humanity for some years. So, if we read these messages and then we look at the signs and what's going on, and we listen to the speeches of the powerful who, everywhere in the world, announce the need to join a one world government, we understand really easily that we are living the time of the second coming of Jesus. And I'm going to read you these other messages. Pratico Apparitions, Brescia. These are near my house too, about 15 minutes by car from where I live. A 1999 message announced that soon Jesus will visit humanity. Still Carbonia, 2004, announced he invites us to do the deeds, announced my imminent return. Mary Most Holy calls you to respect all things, and announces you the brief time which is left for you. Live up to this call. Don't sleep in your heart. Instead, be alive witnesses in the mission. Trevignano Romano, Apparitions, Rome, 2019. Shout to the world that my son will be soon with you. Shout. It's crystal clear. We must act as soon as possible. Get into action. And Our Lady, I don't have the messages right here, she makes this request in other apparitions, for example in Spain and Escorial, in Africa. A lot of people asked me, why in Medjugorje, which is the place of the apparitions in Bosnia, the most known apparitions in the world, why doesn't she announce this great reality? Well, It's not true. The priest father Hildebrand used to study the messages of Medjugorje, and he wrote a book titled The Return of Jesus. And he relayed a meaningful message received by Mariana. The Holy Mother said, I am appearing so many times on earth in order to prepare humanity to the return of Jesus. Mariana didn't understand, so she asked, do you want us to return to Jesus? And the Heavenly Mother replied, I want to prepare you to the return of Jesus. It's crystal clear, very clear. Sorry, just one thing. When Jesus himself says, I'm writing, what does he mean in your opinion? Have you asked yourself this question? Did you get an idea or not? He simply uses these visionaries and he calls them also tools to dictate his word. So, in the sense that he's writing this, I mean, he utilizes the limbs of these people and dictates his message. That's it, quite simply. Thanks, all right. Look, listen, now I'm going to ask you this question. How do you recognize a true apparition from a fake one? First of all, Virgin Mary is not interested into great theologians. She is interested into simple, hearty, and sensitive people who could spread her message without much fanfare. So you recognize it if it retains this simplicity. Furthermore, I've shown you these messages from various parts of the world which are consistent. And if you think about it, it's a great sign. Then I broke them down into many more subjects: the third secret of Fatima, the Antichrist, the Church, the world elite, the 3 days of darkness, the warning. Into 100 subjects, and in each one of them the content falls in line. But one could say, if someone has studied the messages as well as you did, he could pretend to be a visionary and make them up. So people fall into panic and say, we need a theologian to see which ones are real and which ones are not. It doesn't work like that. At all, doesn't work like that. I will read you other messages. Tony Raggetta, Apparitions Lecce, 2013. During many years of life and history of Earth, I have used humble and poor people with a big heart, ready to face everything. The faith I ask for is simplicity. Giampilieri, Sicily, 2013. It's lack of simplicity which is hiding your soul from you and prevents you from working for your own progress. The simple soul expands in front of God and it's receptive to your love. The complicated soul twists on itself, shuts itself in, and prevents God from penetrating it. This message is very clear. It explains a sort of operating physiology of the soul, which is so you do not need hierarchies nor institutions to tell you whether it's true or not. Another message, El Escorial, Apparitions from Spain, 1981. Seek to be simple. It's the only thing which will save you from the wiles of the devil. My child, be humble and simple. We get to understand the apparitions by remaining true to simplicity. And I'll give you other dots to connect. As I said before, the message is delivered through very simple people who have no ambition, and it is consistent in several parts of the world. The second dot to connect is easy. It's written in the Gospel, a tree is known by its fruit. If someone like me was a violent person, keeping on getting into fights, and then someday he visits a place of apparitions, and from that day on he doesn't get into fights with anyone anymore, well, the fruit is good, the tree is good, and the apparition is authentic. I would say you have been routed well. Fortunately. Third dot to connect. I've got some footage of certain solar pulsations in Brazil, the apparitions of Jacaré, in Spain, El Escorial, in Medjugorje, Bosnia, in Cusia, Calabria, Italy, in Trevignano Romano, Rome. I've got this footage which has been also analyzed and it is authentic. They have analyzed some of these videos carefully. In other messages, in other videos, there are some testimonials. I mean, you see the very people amazed while looking at the pulsating sun and pointing at the sky, so these are indisputable files. One more dot to connect. In some apparition sites, some recoveries took place which science could not explain, and also in this case, I'll tell you a few examples. And I invite all people who are listening or who will listen to pay attention. A child from Como had a very severe case of bacterial meningitis. The doctors were about to give him up for dead. He is healed thanks to the apparitions of Paratico in Brescia's province. I have already talked about it in another episode, so watch my other videos. Again, in these apparitions, the Holy Mother has given us many signs. A 43-year-old man had a lot of 3 millimeters and a half kidney stones in his left kidney. He had also a 6 millimeters kidney stone in his right kidney, and he was in excruciating pain. He called the visionary of Paratico and asked him to pray. The very next morning the pains were gone. He had the ultrasound and everything was gone away. He had no kidney stones anymore. In Spain, a 19-year-old girl, Maria Yolanda Barrera, had a stomach cancer. The doctors gave her 6 months to live. They wanted her to have an operation anyway, because there was nothing to lose. So let's try. However, these are hopeless operations. Her mother and her aunt used to go to the apparitions of El Escorial. Coincidentally, Our Lady gave a blessing right on the sick in the hospital. These two women didn't know what to bless. They didn't have some objects to bless, so they picked up 2 stones from the ground. Meanwhile, Holy Mary was giving her blessing. They lifted them up to the sky to bless them. They went to the hospital, and before the operation, the aunt of this girl passed this stone over her stomach gently. Then came the doctor. She got her to surgery. He opened up her stomach and saw that the cancer was gone. The doctor was shocked and got out of surgery speechless. I'm talking of doctors, all right? Not of random people. Messina, Sicily. A woman had a very dangerous colloid nodule. Doctors, both from Messina and Rome, said that they needed to do surgery, but they also said that she would lose the ability to speak after surgery. And that's what happened. After surgery, she couldn't talk anymore. So this woman went to Giampilieri, a place of apparitions in Sicily. Earlier I read a message from that place. Then what happened? That woman could talk again. Even the doctors, both from Messina and Rome, were stunned, and they couldn't give any explanation. Paola Albertini is a visionary from Pedroba, Treviso, Veneto. She went to the USA. There was a 4-year-old brain damaged child. So this child had very severe brain issues and also physical problems since he couldn't move. He used to live in a pram too. I've got the footage of what I'm telling you, alright? This visionary has laid her hands on this child and he, in front of many people, many witnesses, alright, he started to crawl and after a few minutes he stood up and began to walk. I will read you this message, which is the perfect end for this conversation we have just had. Michelino Marcovecchio, Apparitions, Mount St. Onofrio, Umbria. My son has given you the intelligence in order to be able to understand, to be able to listen, but children, you are comfortable with the darkness. So I will end with that. In order to understand which ones are the authentic apparitions, all you need is a little of simplicity, some study, and you do not need absolutely great theologians. Combine this evidence I've just told you, and you cannot go wrong. She's a little harsh when she says you are comfortable with the darkness. It's as if somehow she wanted to really say you basked inside this stuff. You've also underestimated yourselves, right? She implied that, I guess. Yes, look, Virgin Mary also admonishes his sons because when they don't understand and they keep going on the wrong path, the admonition is necessary because there is no other way, and it's also the truth. Anyway, she said that you are comfortable with the darkness, and we see it. There is no sign which could change the minds of a lot of people, and the signs are clear. What is happening? What should we prepare for? Yes, in the message I've read earlier, the Holy Mother said, use your intelligence. You have got your own intelligence. So I always used to invite people not to keep saying the usual talk, such as, let's hope that things will be back to normal, in order to get, I don't know, someone's approval or to gain acceptance. No, I say, let's look at what this world elite is planning and plotting. More than once, the great powers have declared that they want to level the world population, even through speeches. For example, Jacques Cousteau, who was a UNESCO ambassador, in a 1991 speech, he said, in order to stabilize world population, we must remove and get rid of 350,000 people per day. I will read you this message, Luz de Maria, May 2021. So it's a very timely message. My children, the disease will go on. Famine will come sooner than you might think. The reduction of the world's population has started with the current disease, and it will keep following that demonic plan. So the plan began with this pandemic. Other diseases will come, one after another. So do not be deceived, and here she talks about famine too. A well-known Canadian journalist, Benjamin Fulford, talked with a high-level powerful Mason, and this Mason told him, we must remove and eradicate billions of people by the use of wars, diseases, strangely enough, and famine. Even more, there are also some files. In the 80s, in the Global Biodiversity Assessment, they were talking about the reduction of the world population through the scarcity of the primary resources of this planet. And even before, in 1974, in the Memorandum 200, a document signed also by Henry Kissinger and delivered to the US President and the Secretary of State too, well, in that document they talk about the problem of the world overpopulation, which has to be countered with birth control, famine, destruction and disasters in the plantations, and crops through diseases, and with the implementation of GMO seed. I will read you this message. Something is definitely going on, and we have noticed that. Yes, again, Lucia Maria, May 3rd, 2021, the carrying out of the evil extermination plans is soon to come. The world that you were living in silence has become public with this plague, and because of the arrogance of those who wish to show their power, the use of weapons is close for this generation. There is going to be an infestation of diseases in the plantations of food. Therefore, the ghost of famine will advance on earth. Do not forget to prepare the blessed grapes. They genetically manipulate seed in order to cause plant diseases. You're going to see entire plantations all over the world destroyed by these diseases. So be prepared, because Our Lady has announced this. So it's going to happen. She's also talked of blessed grapes. Yes, right, what does she mean? Yes, so in the 60s, Virgin Mary used to appear in San Damiano in Piacenza's province, and she had talked about the times of the Antichrist, that is, the years which we are clearly living right now. She already knew of this huge famine which would have come, which is about to happen. She gave us some advice. Get yourselves a bunch of grapes. Have it blessed by a priest, wash it with water and drops of soap. Cut the grapes with the scissors one by one. Bless the grapes one by the sign of the cross. Prepare a sterilized glass vase and fill this vase about 3/4 high with these grapes. Then fill out the vase completely with some brandy and then seal it. In the times of the great famine, one of these grapes will energize and feed 2 people every day. I suggest to put this advice into practice, even those which sound like the most trivial ones, because we will really realize that very, very severe times are coming. Yes, however, it's not the first time she gives some remedies. We will see about that in other interviews with you. However, it's not the first time she gives some remedies or she informs us about natural remedies, right? There is a dedicated site for it. Look for Luz de Maria's special messages, and there is a section which talks specifically about the medical herbs. She already knew that these worldwide pandemics would have come. She has been preparing us for years. She said which diseases are going to be next. For example, those who will affect the skin. And she warned us about everything, also informing us about how to be prepared with these herbs and how to use them, of course. Alright, so which are the solutions proposed by Mary, by Our Lady? What should we do? Yeah, first of all, I invite you to watch a video I have posted on YouTube. Its title is End Times, Let's Join Together. Right, just as I told you. End times, let's join together and put into practice what I tell you. But anyway, you'll see it firsthand. So let's join together, but still following the instructions given by the heavens. and I right away read this message. Carbonia, November 2020. Fear belongs to the man who is not in me. He does not have his facts straight because he does not know me. If he would know me, he wouldn't accept the dictatorship imposed by the New World Order. My poor children, so far from the truth, so wrong-footed by the dictates of the devil. Forward, the battle is fierce, but those who want to save themselves make an act of humility towards his God love and bow themselves down to his will. If man knew the truth, he would not be afraid of this elite of the New World Order. Instead, he would be afraid of the judgment of Christ, of the second coming of Jesus, which is now at hand, of course. If we accept all that the powers impose and cast on us in favor of an apparent comfort zone, we become accomplices, and Jesus asked us to step up in this fierce, last and ultimate battle against the dark forces. And Virgin Mary invites us to a unity like never before. I'm going to read you these other messages to help you understand. Valeria Copponi, Apparitions, Rome, 2002. Be united, my children, be united. In unity, a lot of things work out. Be united among yourselves, together with your Christian brothers and brothers from other religions. Yeah. The Three Fountains, Apparitions, Rome, 2000. Salvation is not to combine all of the religions to make a pile of heresies and mistakes. Instead, convert for the unity of love and faith. Here it is, excuse me, but this is a blow to this pile. She is very clear. A pile of heresies and mistakes, which is what they are trying to do at a religious level. With the interreligious dialogue, they are trying to do this. They are trying to merge, and she, wham! With that blow, she put the whole thing to bed, so to speak. Very good, exactly. She's right on time, wonderful. I'm going to read you the last message and then I'll deepen the topic that you mentioned. Oliveto Citra, Caserta 2021. Do good to yourselves by doing it to your neighbor. Of course, it's the reciprocity, it's a natural principle, exactly. The world elite is preparing the manifestation of the Antichrist. And the Antichrist has to be considered like a god, like the first Messiah who has come to earth. So, as you just said earlier, they want to merge all of the sacred texts from all religions in order to create a single world religion which will acclaim the Antichrist. Our Lady wants to unite us with the brothers of other religions, but not with the purpose of merging the sacred texts and making a pile of mistakes. In fact, of course, I'll keep on receiving the Eucharist and praying the Rosary. No doubt about that, but she wants that we join all together so that we resist, expose and fight the work of Satan, which is unfolding openly and shamelessly. With two weapons. The first one is, of course, to continue to announce the truth, of course, to expose the lies they are throwing all the time at us. The second one is charity, that is, let's join together to do something good to the needy in practice, and in our own small way, let's make the world better. Let's alleviate the negative events which are bound to fall on this planet. Obviously, let's improve our personal situation too. Jesus said, all who take the sword will perish by the sword. So, if we do good, what does it come around? Good comes around. That is how we should fight together. And I'm going to read you these messages. Paratico, Brescia, 1995, August. I am the mother of all of you. I am Theotokos Mater Dei. So I am mother of the Orthodox, of the Protestants, of the Muslims, of the Jews. I am the mother of all because I am the mother of God. Of course, El Escorial, Spain, 1994. I want her to be venerated in every place. I want her brought to all people, believers or not, Mohammedans, Buddhists, youngsters, children, and old people. Let all venerate the image of my mother. This is the time of Mary. In other messages, Our Lady said, You have been conceived by me and God the Father. So the Heavenly Mother is the female part of the Father, of God. She is the Theotokos Mater Dei, Divine Mother, so Mother of all humanity, not only of the Christians, as you often hear say, and now I know that I will be criticized about that. In this message, Jesus said, Venerate the image of my mother. I want her image to be venerated by everyone from all religions, but not the paper image, instead of her figure, her presence, which is very clear in these years. As I told you earlier, I always used to go to San Bonico every Thursday, and two Muslims always came with me. A Buddhist friend of mine, a Buddhist sympathizer, has translated some videos of mine into English. I mean videos where I talk precisely about Marian messages. A Buddhist friend of mine has translated into Spanish some videos where I still talk about Marian messages. So, Virgin Mary will be our big meeting point, yes, a unification point. I know that you are Buddhist, so I send this message, I make this appeal to you and the other Buddhists. To the other religions, Virgin Mary is appearing, so I ask you to take this great truth, these apparitions, into account. Holy Mary calls everyone, so she is demanding to be heard. She will be our great salvation, so let's join all together with the Heavenly Mother, with Mary. She will be our ark of protection during these chilling years which are going to come upon humanity. So in simplicity, I really ask everyone openly to accept the message of Mary. In this respect, you have equipped yourself with a tool on your channel. You arrange for people to get in touch somehow. As far as I know, it worked like this. You told them to tell their name, their place, and then let's join together, right? But then you have perfected it. It looks like you want to preserve their anonymity. I mean, you are very likely going to cover their face, which is an assurance of anonymity for these people. But you make sure that these people get in touch with each other and organize. Well, I echo and rhyme with your method, and I hope that the people watching us, and they are going to watch us, rest assured about that, because we are also organizing in this way to make sure that this initiative could spread together with the messages and everything else. Thank you very much, my dear friend. No, absolutely. I felt I must commit myself on this task. I have really welcomed it with great warmth because I have perceived it's authentic. So we'll follow it. I'm very pleased, you know that. No, it's something which, moreover, makes me very proud, but also I'm honored to be able to do it. Very honored. Thank you very much. Thank you for your commitment. Thank you for having the patience to, well, undergo this interview. I know that it's a big commitment for you. You offered yourself for this mission But I also think that this mission has given you and is still giving you joy. Absolutely, yes, I'm happy to be involved with this battle. I tell people all the time that it's an honor for me. Of course, sometimes it's a little stressful because of the insults and embarrassments that I went through back in the day while spreading those sheets. Sometimes I still go through them. Every now and then I check the comments to my videos, and they are not all nice. You know, you happen to absorb several mean things too. Now I read only very few of them because now I don't even have time to do that. Anyway, in this battle, I am extremely happy, and every day I thank heaven for letting me know the truth. And I also thank, not because you are Buddhist, I want to pander to you, not at all. I thank all of my Buddhist friends because I have witnessed that a lot of them didn't have prejudices, and although I'm a Christian, they have anyway accepted the message of Mary, and I was very pleased. I'll tell you this. Personally, I am offended by the fact that, indeed, they haven't given the last rites to the dying people during this period, by the fact that in the churches the Eucharist cannot be celebrated the way it should be celebrated with the right cachets. I will support all of my Catholic brothers in this battle. I will do it with all my strength. Thank you very much. Really, really. Hey, I've noticed you feel the same way I do. As you said before, I've never liked that closed mind. I mean, I'm Christian, so the message is staying right here. No, absolutely no. No way. No one ever taught me that. I mean, the message must be spread everywhere. It's a matter of how you carry out your religious practice. That's something that, of course, everyone must carry out that practice. However, in my opinion, faith is common to all. The authentic faith is something which we all have in common. The authentic one, of course, not the one imposed from the top downwards, handed down from on high by the structured hierarchies, which impose certainly, yes, I couldn't agree more. Simple people. Our Lady wants simple people. Actually, for example, a message came to me, and I'll probably write a book whose core is simplicity. Awesome. So you probably liked these messages I brought you right here. Absolutely, absolutely. So now I wish you good luck for everything. And I'm thinking, if and whenever you can, we could plan. Actually, I have started a page which is just about prophecies. Its name is Deposuit Potentes, which means he will depose the powerful. So, it's a provocation, but at the same time an omen. Amazing, amazing. As meaning that it will happen for real. Anyway, listen, we'll carry on this project together. I hope that you somehow want to carry it on by giving me a little of your time. Of course, I'm going to publish your video clips, which you have obviously already published yourself. However, we'll do something a little richer and more interesting. If you can, of course, definitely. Thank you very much, my dear friend. Welcome. It's been an honor also for me to have met you and to have had you as a guest today in this broadcast. So I'll say goodbye then. The honor's been all mine. The honor's been all mine. It is shared, so I'll say goodbye. See you soon. Thank you all, my dear friend. I'll say goodbye too. See you, dear friend. Thank you very much. Bye bye.